The costs of emotional avoidance. This is often what withdrawers are not taught, right? That little boy Ryan was talking about, nobody told him what would happen to always deal with these emotions on his own. This success that they have at work at being able to turn down their emotions when they come home, it really comes at a huge price, right? Being so self-reliant leaves very little room for the healthy dependency that we know is the key to strong relationships. What happens with so many withdrawers is this emotional inhibition becomes habitual, right? It gets applied automatically across all settings. That's why we're trying to work it towards flexibility, this ability to turn it off when you need and turn it back on. Withdrawers lose that ability. It's like an on-off switch that gets stuck in the off position. As they continue to distance themselves from their own inner world, they really develop a huge part of themselves that they don't know. The secret to any relationship is based on quality of engagement. How can you engage when so many parts of who you are is kind of turned off outside awareness? Literally, the armor they put on to really be successful in the world, to kind of face it their own. I like to think again as a firefighter, the mask that I need to breathe, that keeps me alive, that I want to be able to continue to use. If I come home and I'm still wearing that mask, it's absolutely going to get in the way of connecting with my wife and my kids. Right? And this is the cost, the price to not feel bad, to not have too many negative emotions, is withdrawers start to lose their own humanity. They start to lose their ability to feel good, to engage. And statistically, higher risk of anything we study, right? Depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse, domestic violence, suicide, divorce, you name it, we were never designed to face these big emotions chronically on our own. So this pressure is a great word and when you're trying to connect with the withdrawers world. This sense of needing to fix it, to not know, these senses that are scanning for threat all the time because they want to proactively kind of jump in there. That's the reading that we're talking about. They're so quick at trying to say, all right, my partner's upset with me. Let me fix it before this thing could grow. That's a ton of work. The image that so many withdrawers use is it feels like a minefield. It feels like walking on eggshells. The worst thing about a minefield isn't the explosion. It's not the fight. It's not knowing when the fight's going to happen. It's like Spider-Man. Withdrawers have these spidey senses, and they ask their partner, how's it going? They're scanning that face for disappointment, something that's frustrating their partner, right? Because if they can see it quick, they can jump in and maybe do something. What's it like to live that way? To constantly be waiting for messages that you did something wrong, that you're in trouble. Again, that was so sad in Ryan's story, that little boy just waiting for the message he's in trouble, that he's bad. No wonder why he wants to constantly get away from those messages. And it feels so counterintuitive to want to talk about those feelings. Why would you want to feel that and talk about it? If you can just fix it, you can get away and then everything's going to be okay. No wonder why there's this constant pull to wanting to fix, to perform, to do. Because that's where they're safe. And in these emotional places, nobody's coming. No wonder why space becomes their friend. So performance, this external focus, is a hallmark of a typical withdrawer. Right? If you're constantly scanning your environment for threat and trying to figure out what you need to do to fix it, there's going to be a lack of awareness about your own inner world. So we should expect that. If you're constantly focusing on your performance, you're living in the future. You're worried about what could happen and what you need to do. Right? Withdrawers tend to be in the present moment. That's why they don't often know physically where their signals are coming from. They're focusing on what's coming next. What's so sad, if you really lean into this world of a withdrawer, is to recognize that little boy was taught to shut down. That was a resilient thing he did. He tried to figure things out on his own. And then the world celebrates that and says, let me promote you and pay you. And, this is how your friends like you. And it's great that you can turn off your feelings. It's cool. And that little boy grows up to be a man that likes this part about himself. And then he finds himself in a relationship where somebody says, what's wrong with you? Why can't you talk about your feelings? And they start to believe there's something wrong with them, when this is just a script that's being played out. That's why it's so important to have therapists to fight for these withdrawers to help them change the script. Another image that's very helpful is withdrawers are masters. That's why they're so good at blocking of the defense, right? They constantly try to stop bad things from happening. The problem is, if you're always on defense, you're not going to have a very good offense. How could you really know what you want, what your longings are, what your dreams and aspirations, when you really are just trying to avoid bad things? When you ask a withdrawer, what do they need? Expect them to say, less fighting. Right? Not, I want to have this amazing romance. They're constantly trying to reduce the negative. And they don't recognize the cost of that is they lose the ability to even put words to their longings, their dreams, and all the good stuff, the reasons why we're coming into a relationship. That's why when we get these withdrawers to start engaging, right, to coming forward, that's the new move, right, to start fighting for these places that are often cast aside. Again, what's so tragic for withdrawers, going back to Ryan's little boy, is to adapt and to resiliently learn to be on your own. The withdrawer has to do to themselves exactly what was done by their parents that didn't work, which is not speak to these places, leave them alone, literally lock the little boy in a closet and just try to take care of problems. And when things are solved, then that little boy could come out. But nobody gets to comfort the little boy, see the fears, see the hurts, the pain, and help them put words to it. Again, that's going to be our job. So, what is the option of a withdrawer? You choose. What would you want to do? Would you want to go away, take space when your partner seems to be angry? The problem is, when you go away, your partner, you know you're failing. You know your partner's still going to be upset with you, but at least it feels safer for you. So accept failure and go away, or head towards the emotion, head towards the growing reactivity. It shows how distressing that is, that they choose the failure and the safety of going away rather than staying in the midst of the growing emotion, right? And who sees that fear inside of them? Literally, for most withdrawers, they're only safe when they're getting it right. So as long as they're performing and doing and their partner's happy, the world is good. It's playing out the way it's supposed to. But anytime they get these messages of failure, disappointment, frustration from their partner, they get the message they're failing, where do they go? Off alone to deal with it. How sad is that? Right? That little boy hit a home run, great. His parents were proud of him. He strikes out, he goes off by himself. Right? There's a better way of doing that. I always remind myself that every time that withdrawer goes away and doesn't ask for help and tries to deal with it on their own, it's just another brick in the wall. It reinforces that it's going to be harder and harder to ask for help the next time. It is literally training their bodies to not let people in. That's why we want to pace and help them. It's not easy after all these years of muscle memory. So the key moment we're trying to capture is that moment right before they go away. Yes, we get their going away to feel safe, and we can help them put words to it. But right before they go away, that sense of failure, that sense of fear, that sense of helplessness that any human would feel in that moment, who sees it in a withdrawer? No one. Their partner's too angry, feeling rejected. They're not able to see it. The withdrawer can't see it in themselves because they just want to get away. And yet when we understand attachment, we recognize this is their moment of greatest need. This is precisely the moment that we're trying to get them to show a new move. To be able to recognize, you know what, they deserve comfort and reassurance and help, just like anyone else would be in these moments. So to do that, We have to dispel a lot of these myths, right? The partner often thinks the withdrawer don't give a crap, right? They're always leaving. They don't care. I get why the pursuer feels that way, but that's not the truth of the withdrawer. Right? Think about what they do every day. They wake up, they try the best they can. They push that boulder up the hill, just waiting for the inevitable message that they're doing it wrong and that they're failing. And that boulder's going to roll on top of them. They're going to fall right back. And what do the next day? They try again. And the next year and the next decade. They keep trying. Why do they try so hard? Because it matters so much to them, the relationship. They want to be in a relationship. They want to love well. They just oftentimes don't have the tools to do that. Literally, and Ryan's story was a perfect example of this. They've made a choice to try to get away from their feelings because when they had intense feelings, nobody helped them with it. They didn't have success with their feelings, so they did the only resilient thing they could do, which is to try to get away from them, outrun them. If you want them to change that, give them success with their feelings. That's what we're trying to do here. We don't have to get them to the deep, sad places. Start off with the humor. Start off with the deflecting. Start off with all these moves that are all about emotion and help them have success. I guarantee you, if they have more success, they won't need to be going away all the time. If staying engaged was safe, you don't need the other move of going away and taking space. But there's no shortcut to the experience. You can't talk them into it. They physiologically have to experience that success. So, just to impact your heart, just to see how hard this is for withdrawers, right? I don't know what's worse. There's two really bad spots in this. One is within themselves. When they feel so bad, helpless, and a failure, they just go away and just accept this is the best life has. Let me just wait till this passes, the storm, and then I'll come back and try again. I mean, I have kids. When I think about my kids feeling that way, it just breaks my heart. Right? There's a better way, and yet they resign themselves that they're okay. They don't need the help. Just leave them alone. But even worse, part two is, even though they want to be left alone, they somehow want to be there for their partner. They want to jump into the hole. Their partner says, you don't know how to be with me emotionally. They're like, I want to. They try their best. But what is empathy? Empathy is, I have to feel with my partner, and to do that, I have to feel my own emotions to do it. So if my partner's sad or feeling hopeless, and I'm going to connect with my partner there, I have to be willing to feel that myself. Is that going to be a problem for withdrawers? Absolutely. They are set up to fail in empathy. Because they avoid their own feelings, they're also going to want to avoid their partner's feelings. That's just the math behind this equation. Wouldn't it make sense if we want to change that math? We got to get these withdrawers to experience success with their emotions. Right? When their body gets a sense of feeling sad and having somebody join them, a sense of connection that comes through the sadness, they have that success, it's a lot easier to then give it to their partner. Again, we're back to that success. Here's the irony here, withdrawers. The cure for the pain lies in the pain. That's a radical message. But it's straight to the heart. You want these withdrawers to engage more, empathize with their partner. Somebody's got to show up for them. And even if the partner can't do it, we, the therapist, certainly can. And that changes the whole game. So finishing up here, we want these withdrawers to come forward, not to placate, not to perform, but to recognize their life will be enriched when they don't have to face these things alone. Right? And that's the risk that we're encouraging in this model. We're asking withdrawers to put aside their need to perform, to fix, to do, and to go deeper into themselves. Not easy to do. And not only go deeper, but to go to places of insecurity and vulnerability, places that they've hid their whole life, that they don't like in themselves. And then we want them to take these hidden, ugly places of failure and turn to their partner and share them. To the same partner who's telling them they're doing it wrong or not enough all the time, we want them to share the worst parts of who they are. This is not logical. A withdrawer should never do it, and yet withdrawers do it all the time. This is the good news of withdrawal re-engagement, that despite a lifetime of training, there's still a longing inside them. There's still a longing inside of them that's stronger than any of the fears. They just need to feel safe enough to tap into it, to take this risk, because there's a part of them that knows there's a better way than just going away. And that's our job, is to pace that, to get them to that place where they can take that risk. And how do we know it works? The proof is right there in the body. Wherever that fear and that failure manifests itself, if they can share it, and in the embrace of their partner, we're going to come back to that body. And I want to see signs of positive affect. What's the opposite of failure? Success. I want to see that withdrawer feel calmer, more confident, lighter, happier, feeling loved, accepted, wanted. Classic signs: appreciated, honored, loved. All the good stuff of why we're getting into relationships in the first place. Withdrawal re-engagement might seem like a big mountain to climb, but it starts with one step after the next step. So let's learn how to take those steps.